Good afternoon, everybody. We are live, and I'm glad it worked because we had to change the time on this one a couple of times due to me. That was my fault. I was ill at the time when Alison was originally going to come on. And sometimes when you change the times on these streams, they just don't work. But today, I'm very glad to say that it is all working. So for anyone that is joining us, please let us know if you can see and hear us okay. Just want to get started and introduce our guest today, who is Alison Carlton from Selleramp fame. If anybody has ever heard of that software in the Amazon world, which I'm sure you guys have, just say hello, everyone. Hi, Alison. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, Natalie, and thank you for having me on. And I'm glad your voice has returned.
It has. I think I saw you in person probably about, what was it, a couple of weeks after or a week after or something like that. And I was still pretty croaky at that time. And
yeah, for sure.
I remember us having the conversation about kind of you're in the same boat where you kind of suffer with your sinuses and lose your voice all the time. And yeah, it's just not a great place to be. So yeah, it's not, unfortunately. It's a great place for Matt. He likes it when I lose my voice.
Exactly. I remember it was October, because October and April are my times of year, and Al and I were at a meetup one year, and I had laryngitis due to all the allergic stuff going on. And on my phone, I actually wrote a note saying, I have laryngitis. And anytime somebody would try to talk to me, I just hold up my notes, people, because I couldn't actually talk.
See, that's a really sensible thing to do. Whereas I really try and strain my voice. I'm like, I can't talk, I can't talk. Yeah, I know. And then it just makes it even worse. So welcome, guys. Can you just let us know if you can see and hear us okay? That would be really handy. Hopefully you guys are able to. Otherwise, it will look like we've both got laryngitis and we're just like chatting away endlessly to each other. We've got Ben, we've got Jay, Kuram's joined us. Hi, Joe, Ramona, James, Sylvia, welcome. Nor, hello, guys. Yeah, thanks for confirming, Joe. Really appreciate it. So today, I've been trying to get Alison on for ages, but obviously very busy lady, international traveler, because you've just recently come over to the UK and you did a series of meetups over here, which we'll touch on in a moment. And now back in the States, and then back off traveling again today, because obviously it's Thanksgiving week in the US. And you know, we were just talking before you're going off this afternoon to spend Thanksgiving with your family and get involved in the busiest travel time of the year in the US.
Honestly, I hate traveling at Thanksgiving, but opportunity presented itself for us all to be together, and it's a couple short flights, so it's not too bad. So we're just going to put our patience hat on when we go to the airport today and just be ready for whatever may come our way.
Absolutely. I think that is absolutely the best way to deal with it. You know what can potentially happen in terms of a million people being there. So the best thing to do is just kind of go with the flow, not get stressed, and just see where the travel takes you, essentially.
Exactly.
Right. We've had a few more people. We've got Damien, Dan, Claire. Afternoon, everyone. Andre said hello. He said the meetups that you guys provided were lit. So
thanks, Andre.
Really enjoyed
it's
that
great
one.
to have you there.
Yeah, I just couldn't make the Nottingham one, unfortunately. I for something that was, you know, having kids and things like that. And obviously I'd met quite a few people the week before at Amanda's event, and I really tried to get to the Nottingham one, but I've actually realized where I live kind of on the edge of Bournemouth, to get to Nottingham, I really don't think there is a more difficult UK trip ever. It was literally, honestly, the most complicated journey. I thought, okay, I'll get a train, and there was like 4 changes, and it was just
at some point it becomes unreasonable, doesn't it? Yeah, totally.
It became unreasonable for an afternoon trip, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
So, but but I heard it
Somebody,
was amazing.
I was
Matthew,
gonna say, somebody asked, "Hey, when's the next one?" And I'm like, "We would absolutely love to do that." So we are actually discussing, okay, how can we do more of that type of thing, where we're seeing different parts of the country. Nottingham's easy for us in the center; it's where we used to live. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, there's definitely a need for it. I think that community, that networking, you can never get enough of that. And I know, back to, you mentioned Amanda and Cellar Festival. She's very on board with continuing activities like that sort of around the country. So we are also discussing doing things like that ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we need to have a conversation about that because we would love to get involved. It would almost be like a Selleramp on tour in
Exactly.
collaboration with, the various different communities. And
Do we
then
get a tour bus? I'll do it if we
yeah,
get a tour bus. That'd be
Al would
amazing.
love that, wouldn't
Oh
he?
yeah,
He
yeah.
would love
We can
that.
bring the
Any
dog. It'd be
excuse,
great.
yeah, any excuse to be like a software rock star, I'm sure he would be on board with that 100%.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
ask
so
apologies to everybody. I'm gonna keep drinking my tea because it's only 7 in the morning here, so I
yes.
ask your
Oh,
forgiveness.
I was just about to say that. Sorry, I meant to say that at the start, Alison. It is an ungodly hour where you are. So thank you so much for taking the time to
Absolutely.
accommodate and join us. We really do appreciate that. But let's get into it. So the
Okay.
reason I wanted Alison to come on Beyond the Buy Box today is because there's a couple of things that we want to discuss today. One being which I find quite interesting. I get asked about it quite a lot, with being married and being married to my business partner, which obviously you're in the same situation with Al. So I want to kind of explore and discuss that business relationship, marriage relationship, running a business together, and how you kind of navigate it. Because like I said, when I talk to people on one-to-one basis at, networking events, or whether it be on coaching calls or one-to-ones, or, just general chit chat with people, generally one of the goals that people talk about, and it's quite common, I see it a lot, is when you have one person that's already in the business, whether they're fully in the business or not, generally one of the goals or ambitions that they come up with is that they want the business to be producing enough that they can potentially bring a partner on board to come into the business to free them, from the 9 to 5, the grind, whatever it is. Or generally, I see a lot of guys, I in particular, I don't know if I'm stereotyping here, where guys maybe start the business and maybe their partner, wife, whatever, has had a baby and they don't want to go back, after having a baby from maternity leave. So it's something that I see quite often. And so I think it's one of those things that people maybe have as a goal, but maybe are not aware of. I'm not going to say the ramifications because it makes it sound like it's a big warning coming, big red flags or anything like that, but maybe don't consider some of the elements that might be involved by being in business with your husband or wife or life partner, or whatever that relationship is. And exactly what Sylvia said there. It's also not for everyone, and it can be a challenge,
I saw that
shall we
comment.
say,
Ooh.
for want of a better word. So those are some of the areas that I want to discuss. But we're also going to talk about, it is kind of connected a little bit. Alison's going to talk about some, overcoming adversity and that type of thing. But before we get started, for anyone that doesn't know you, Alison, do you want to just give us a brief history of Alison? So what you were doing before you were fully integrated into Selleramp?
Yeah, for sure. As Al puts it, I've been corporate girl for most of my career. Primarily, ironically enough, working the thread that is through my CV is working with retailers. So we used to kind of chuckle when he started into Amazon, selling on Amazon, because it's like, ooh, ooh, we're on the other side. I'm on the other side. But I was involved in everything from consumer electronics to sort of in-store support, and to software as well, working with retailers. So that has definitely been a thread, and actually it's paid off quite a bit in moving over to the Amazon space. Just having that sort of knowledge of consumer buying and consumer behavior, and it does translate over for sure. So, um, you know, going back to when I was living here in America before, obviously, yes, I don't have the cool accent. I am technically British, but I am American by birth. My career in America involved working for Samsung, and this was 20 years ago when Samsung was still a growing brand. So it was fun to be part of that ride and see the rise to obviously global dominance as they have right now. DirecTV, which is one of the American equivalents of Sky TV, so satellite television. I had an amazing opportunity, amazing career there, working with our resellers there. And then I met this British guy. Mm-hmm. And the rest is history. So as Al and I got towards engagement, marriage, that type of thing, we knew that I would be moving over there because his daughter was teenager at the time. So that presented an opportunity that I was wanted as well, which was moving to another country. So it was a great chance to integrate myself into British society. And like I said, I did eventually get the passport. But even coincidentally enough, once I got over there, the jobs I had over there were both dealing with retailers again. So one in the software space and one in the store operations space. So original plan was for me to continue my corporate life, and that's what I was comfortable with. That's what I had done. And as we moved back to the US and began looking around, and Selleramp was growing, and Al just kind of looked at me and said, let's give this a try. And I do give him credit as well, because going back to before, as we were getting to know each other, as we were not quite engaged yet, he did look at me one time and said, we should start a business together. And at the time, corporate girl's like, no way, man, I'm not going to leave my corporate job. But he's right. So my background in those roles involved sales training. So doing things like this, doing in-person training, creating content, helping people sell the product. It also involved software project management, as well as selling to retailers as well. Mm-hmm. So kind of a mixed bag within that vertical of dealing with retailers. So these kind of things I'm super comfortable with. My neck will turn red just because I'm talking. But yeah, I could stand and deliver in front of a room of a couple hundred people with no problem whatsoever. So I forget sometimes that I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that. So I really should use it more.
Absolutely. Well, I heard you speak publicly a few weeks ago, or whenever it was, a month or so ago, and I can confirm Alison is an amazing public speaker as well. So yeah,
you have coming from you, that is highest praise. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. But look, I think what's interesting actually is I remember actually having a conversation with Al years ago, and sort of saying, oh, do you think Alison will get involved? And you were very much described as the corporate high flyer, never gonna happen kind of thing. Alison is where she is, and she's phenomenally successful from that point of view. And what's interesting, I didn't know that there was so much crossover in terms of what you were already doing, and it complemented what Al was building with Selleramp and how you can utilize that. So when you did actually make that decision, was it a strategic decision to bring you in as the business was growing from that point of view?
It had been a thought early on. Certainly in his arbitrage journey and early in the software, I was very involved, nights, weekends type of thing, as so many of our spouses, partners, friends, family are. So I definitely got myself familiar with everything, but it was still his business. It was still his thing. I was just helping out, and my allegiance was always to, when my work phone rang, I needed to answer it, kind of thing. But yeah, we did have that discussion. He often would ask me for opinions from a business perspective. And then one of the things that kind of made me start realizing that this was a good thing for me to look at doing is throughout my career at different stages, when you leave a job that you've enjoyed and people are giving you their sentiments and everything, a couple times people have told me things to the effect of, somebody called me the Wikipedia at one of my jobs because I knew a little bit about everything. I knew people in this department and that department. I knew enough to be dangerous, I guess. So in that respect, having that knowledge of not only the sales side of life, but the operational side of life, the marketing, the anything else, the software side of things, it did make a lot of sense in my mind. I was like, yeah, I think I could do that. So it didn't take much convincing. It was more a matter of whether the business could sustain it. So we genuinely, when we first tried to do it, we said, all right, we're going to give it a go for 12 months. And he hated to say it, but he's like, I might have to let you go. I'm like, I get it. I totally get it. I'm like, let's make this thing work. Okay.
And I think that's where the kind of crossover comes in when you're running a business with someone and knowing where your kind of marriage starts and the business begins and and the business ends and that type of thing. So I suppose kind of jumping ahead a little bit, and I was going to come on to this, for any type of business relationship to be successful from a marriage or a partnership or something like that, communication has to be top of the list. Certainly from my point of view, in terms of clear cut, everybody understanding where they are, because it's very easy to blur the lines between marriage and business, right?
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh. And again, technically it's still Al's business, so there is a bit of ownership there. We have joint responsibility for so many different things that those lines get blurred. But one thing I found when I started doing it is, as you learned when Al was on the pod, everybody, that he's been doing an entrepreneur thing for 20 years.
Yeah.
So he's been out of the corporate life. And as much as people want to buck the corporate life, guess what? There's some things that do work. There's some aspects of it that can apply across the whole spectrum of business sizes. So coming in, it was interesting to try to see, okay, how do I downsize it, but still take some of those learnings forward? So a good example was, I would end up with my list of, I got to talk to Al about this, this, and this. And I finally just said, that's it. We're going to have a staff meeting. Mm-hmm. Like every Monday morning, 11 o'clock, you and me sit on the couch at the table, wherever it is, and bang through this list of here's my to-dos, and here's what I need from you, and vice versa. And I'll be darned, it just opened up that line of communication. So you're not remembering as you're walking the dog, oh, I got to tell you this, or as I'm cooking, I'm screaming down the hallway going, hey, I got it. There's a specific time we can sit and talk about, like, here's what I'm going to do this week, and here's what I need your help on. And it's inevitable, like you said, the creep, it happens. But we try to isolate things to, even if it's just prefacing it with, hey, I want to talk business for a second, as opposed to, hey, I want to talk about, what I'm going to buy on Amazon for the lounge tomorrow, just so that person has a second to flip over to that mindset. And not leave the other person out in the cold, because I know that's one thing. And if you're listening, darling, I know you know this, but I'm going to say it. Catching me off guard with something that's business related when my mind is a million miles away thinking about our next holiday or something.
Yeah,
it takes a second, doesn't it? You really gotta frame it. You gotta bring that person back. Say, I want to talk about this real quickly. And I do the same thing. I go walking down to his office. I want to talk to him about something. And he's knee deep in some code, and he's just like, he just puts his hand up. He's like, nope. Okay, got it. At the time. So I think just respecting each other's boundaries and respecting that the other person, although they're on the same page with you, that you don't share a brain. So you got to respect what it takes for them to switch gears into a certain topic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that only comes with time. I don't know whether or not, again, I feel like I'm stereotyping, so apologies if that's the case, but, whether it's the man versus woman thing, I definitely feel I can switch gears very quickly. Whereas Matt, the way that we run business together, we are very, I find that in marriage, our goals are very collaborative in the sense of, we have the same aspirations for our children, we have the same, we raise our children, we have the same morals, everything like that. Whereas in business, we're very different people. Whereas marriage and business are very two different things. So when Matt is in business, he has to focus on like one task at a time, whereas I can flip between things, you know, kind of thing. So it is respecting that boundary of, if I say to Matt, and we do exactly the same thing, by the way. So first top tip, we have a Monday morning staff meeting. That's exactly what we do as a marriage as well, because like you said, I found that there were too many times that the business was creeping into, you know, we'd be sat at a birthday party and I'd say, oh, Matt, by the way, you need to make sure, could you do that video for the keeper thing for me? Blah, 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 right in the middle of like a 7-year-old's birthday party. And if he dropped that information on me, I'd be fine. I'd just put it in my thing. Whereas Matt is very much a compartmentalized person. And when he's in that moment, he doesn't want to think about work. He doesn't want to, you know,
Totally.
Yeah, think about that. So, you know, having to separate those two. And I find myself all the time, you know, having to stop myself from saying something because we have the agreed times that we can talk about it. And I think that's definitely one of the main areas of communication and why it works for us. Because like I said, we've learned after many years to respect each other's boundaries.
And it really does. It makes the non-work time that much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
If you know you can sit and watch a football match on TV or what, and you know you're not in that mode. But it sounds like I'm very much like Matt, and you are very much like Al, and the thoughts are always kind of going, aren't they? And it's tough sometimes, especially when you get excited to talk about something. It's like, okay. But the other thing is that you made me think of is notoriously happens when we're walking the dog, and he mentions something, and I'm like, ooh, let me make a note of it. And he's like, not now. I'm like, no. If I don't make a note, it's gone. So let me have someplace I can reference it in the future.
Well, Matt's favorite one is send me an email. And it always makes me laugh. It's like, send me an. So he switches the onus, and it's quite clever actually, because it's generally me that blurts it out because I get excited if I've got a new idea or something like that. So, and then I have to check myself, you know, and Matt will say to me, okay, send me an email. So he's pretty clever actually. He puts the onus back on me in order to make sure that I follow up on it or I do it and put it back in the time, because I also think as well, what I've learned over the years, especially, I suppose I would be considered more the creative in the relationship, the business relationship, is, like I said, I can get I can get ideas and I can blurt them out at any time. But I've also learned over the years as well. And, you know, Matt is probably the one person in life who impacts me the most in terms of, I suppose the best way to classify it is, if I say something to Matt, you know, being married to him, being business, because he's so influential in my life, he can say one sentence and I can be like, right, fine, that's it. I'm not going to, you know, and I can throw it all out the window. So I kind of learned as well that I have to approach him when he's in the work mind, because personal Matt and work Matt are two different people.
Yes,
So,
sure.
you know, if I need that motivation, if I need that praise, if I need that, you know, yes, darling, it's or yes, Natalie, it's a great idea, then I can only approach him on it during work time, because personal Matt, you know, has a very different brain. So I get different reactions with it. And same for me as well. So it works both ways. Is that the same with you and Al?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you brought up the praise thing, because yes, that's one thing you kind of tend to overlook sometimes is just giving that feedback, that circle of feedback. I mean, back to my corporate life, yes, that's one thing that a good boss would always do, is they give you the feedback, positive, negative, but they're always encouraging. And I know for me, that's one thing I totally overlook sometimes. And like, sometimes he'll say something to me and he was just looking for some affirmation. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm working on this. And it's like, no. Just take a second. He's trying to seek out some, like I said, affirmation or just a discussion about something that he thinks is serious. And it's like, It's happened many times where one of us wasn't in the right mode and the other one said something and it comes off wrong and so yeah, taking a step back is sometimes the best thing that you can do. Take a step back, go stand outside, go walk around the yard, go for a walk, whatever, something like that, because it can get heated for sure. But just always come back to what the intention of what that person was saying was, and what was distracting you. We all have bad moments, right, where we fly off the handle, and you have to respect that that's going to happen to each of you, and you're both going to have your bad moments. And I don't know about you, again, could be a male-female thing. I always like to solve things, right? All right, you tell me this, I'm going to try to find a solution. Sometimes you just want to vent, right? Sometimes you just want to get it off your chest. So that is one thing that I am working on, is when he says something to me, like, don't take it as gospel and run off and think you got to do something. Like, sometimes it's just talking, right? Sometimes it's just water cooler talk. It's just trying to get some ideas flowing or venting about something that happened. Or so yeah, definitely know that everything that you've experienced in any other job, you're going to experience when you're working with your spouse, partner, family, friend. So just give everybody the grace of, yes, you're allowed to have a bad day. You're allowed to have a vent session. You're allowed to have a laugh. You're allowed to scream and shout. It's okay. That stuff doesn't go away just because you have a small business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the hardest things. And that kind of brings me on to separating that kind of church and state relationship, is because what happens is you find yourself in a position, like I said, it really does come back to the core of business Natalie and wife Natalie are two very different people, and it's ensuring that how I treat Matt and how he treats me in business is done always with respect, which obviously you have in your marriage anyway as well. But there are liberties in your marriage. Obviously, if you get into a row, sometimes people can go below the belt and things like that. So it's trying not to bring that level of personal into anything, because I'm one of those people during an argument, if I've known someone for a long time, I'll probably I'll bring everything in the kitchen sink into the argument, or something like that. Whereas when Matt and I have a disagreement, because we're very different business people, like I said, I can't emphasize that enough, and that's how you have to recognize if you are going to embark into a partner business relationship. You have to separate the two, because otherwise there's no point. If like if Matt and I were to have a disagreement today about business and he wanted to do something and I didn't, then I can't bring that disagreement later that evening when Matt doesn't want to do the washing up and I do, and I say, well, that's another thing, earlier on you said this, and it's like an ammo. You can't build up that ammo to throw that against someone, because otherwise, if you do, then that is where the trouble starts to creep in, I think. Absolutely. And the most important thing has to be the marriage.
Absolutely. End of the day, I'd give up working with him if it meant the marriage. So there's absolutely no question about that. We just get along well enough that we think we can do this. So I think one thing I had a revelation last week that was kind of appropriate, and that we were talking about, respecting each other and respect each other's space and what that person needs to do. Al's thing is walking. He likes his walks. He thinks a lot while he's walking. He does his walks and talks, that sort of thing. And some days it'll be like, hey, can I join you on your walk? And it's like, ooh, okay, yeah. It's okay. It's okay. Have some alone time. Mine is, strangely enough, running errands. It's like going to the store, wherever. I get some crazy sadistic satisfaction out of getting in the car and fighting traffic and doing all this stuff. So I was doing that last week. I'm like, you know what? This is strangely relaxing in a different way for me. Like, it's not, it's just getting away from the computer. It's listening to music or radio or whatever. and get everything stocked up. So when it comes time to make dinner and we're busy and everything, we've got things in the pantry, right?
Yeah,
So
do you know what? I love that. And I think that's a general tip anyway, because I'm exactly the same. So for me, my top tip here is for sure, get out, get in the car, play your music. So any excuse to get out, get in the car, play my music. Nobody in my house likes my music. So and they all moan when I put it on. So I literally will jump in the car. I will go to the furthest place I can, even if there's a Tesco's down the road. I'll drive to the furthest one so I can just chill out and listen to the music along the way and just
exactly.
enjoy that moment, because there's nothing more uplifting than that. Apologies,
Yeah.
everyone. We're ignoring everyone that's coming in and saying hello.
Hello, everybody.
So Amanda's joined us, Ahmed's joined us, Pat's joined us as well, Josh, hello everyone, Arim's joined us, Rafiq, so lots of people jumping on today. So you've joined us with Alison from Selleramp, and we spent the first kind of half of this talking about how to make that kind of successful business relationship, marriage work, which, like Sylvia said earlier, it's and we discussed, sometimes it doesn't work out, when people go here. And I think we've, without going over it, we've sort of highlighted a couple of the reasons why it doesn't, or why it can't sometimes work out. Lack of communication, that separation between you as a business person and you as a partner, respecting people's boundaries, mutual respect, that compartmentalization. Do you guys work in the same space, or do you work separately as well?
We actually have separate rooms. He's about 15 feet down the hall, but he can close his door towards my door if he needs to. So yeah, I think that's huge, is having that separate space. We're fortunate enough where we live that we've got that luxury. I know that a lot of times people are, almost sitting on top of each other. Mm-hmm. So I would just encourage, if you do have close proximity, to find that moment, find out what can you go walk around and do, where can you go sit if you need to have a think session or something like that. Give yourself some, or is it going and sitting in the car? Is it driving to Tesco, that kind of thing? Like, what, give yourself a little bit of elbow room, if you will.
Coffee shops are great.
Yeah, fantastic, aren't they?
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
So the one time I've tried to go do that one day, I was like, all right, I need to get this project done. I'm going to go do it. I was going to tether to my phone because their Wi-Fi there was horrible. Whole network went down in our area. No Wi-Fi, no signal from AT&T. So I was like, all right, well, that was a fail. Okay, back home again. Use the cable internet.
It's really interesting. We used to have, we haven't got it anymore. We actually sold it after COVID, because we actually made a profit on it. And it's one of those things, when you're a business person, you get the opportunity to make profit, you take it. So we had like a transporter van, which we had for, arbitrage and everything like that. And it was one of those that had seats in the back, and you can have a like a desk in it. So what Matt would do is, we're very fortunate to live by the beach. Well, not as fortunate to live by the beach as in we have a beach view. Otherwise we'd have a lot more money if we had that.
Business would be much better.
We live within driving distance to the beach.
Okay.
So what Matt would do is he would go down and he would just,
that's great.
There's so much parking around there, right in some of the most beautiful views that you'll see in England, just sit there, work by the beach. And I think that separation again is key. And I think that's, that's one of the things that, it sounds obvious when you say it out loud, but it really isn't, because this is something that I think when I almost liken it to when people finish their 9 to 5 to go into, regardless of whether there's a partner involved as well, it's the kind of same rules apply. I've learned over the years where I can work, where I can't work. Matt struggles to separate home and work, so he tends to work more at the warehouse now, whereas I can ignore the washing, I can ignore the dishwasher, I can do all those type of things. So I can work quite happily from home and make really good progress. So it's the same with that kind of business partnership, making sure that you have that dedicated space each, because otherwise, like I said, you could end up bumping into each other and, oh, Matt, by the way, did you pay this or did you do that as well while you're there? It's like intentional separation, right?
Yeah, and make it a space that you enjoy. I mean, I know everybody's looking at my like not so exciting office here, but what you don't see, or I can show you, is on the wall that's behind my camera, I have some of the most soothing pictures I've ever taken on my phone. So we got like Austria, and we got California, and we got Norway, and we got good old Nottingham. You know, it's things like that that make you like, it helps me relax. So
Yeah.
you know, set yourself up so you don't mind being there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what's
You got to spend
interesting,
time there. You might as well enjoy the view.
yeah, when I'm not streaming, I look directly out of the window. So for me,
perfect.
I'm what you would call a window licker. So I love looking out of windows, and that sounds crazy, but literally there's quite a lot of
stalker.
Yeah, I know. I love spying on people. I'm a curtain twitcher for sure. And out of the window, there's lots of wildlife and birds and squirrels and things like that. And I'm like, oh, look at that little squirrel, you know, that type of thing. So yeah, I really love that.
Such a difference. It makes such a difference, especially when you're trying to do a million different projects, a million different things, wearing all these different hats that we wear. It's just great to have that little solace of your office view, your outdoor view, whatever it might be.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. So we've talked about, you know, the transition. Have there been any challenges that you've experienced in terms of
100% smooth sailing, never any issues at all?
Never any issues at all. So, you know, without going into specifics, you know, I'm sure there have been challenges. It's one of those loaded questions. You know that there's going to be challenges.
Yeah, for sure.
And how do you deal with them as a married couple?
As a married couple, yeah, it's really the biggest thing. No, I should say the biggest thing. No matter how small or large it may be, is I'm always a fan of stop and evaluate. You know, too many times in my career, I have not paused to really rationalize what's going on in the situation, and then you know what happens. You start thinking up here, and it just gets blown out of proportion, doesn't it? And it's like, wait, just pause. Okay, let's really evaluate what needs to be done. What actions can we take? What are the possible effects of each of these actions? And just try to have a level-headed discussion about it. We might be one of a few couples in the world that has a whiteboard in our living room. So we started with a manual whiteboard, and then we upgraded to the digital whiteboard because we'd be whiteboarding stuff out, and it's, oh, I want to capture that. So at least we can now capture it and keep it. But yeah, definitely, you know, use the term whiteboard it out, literally jot things down and talk through it. And oftentimes it might just need that bouncing it off of somebody to find the right solution. Or maybe it is beyond that. You know, maybe it's like, hey, we need to call in the cavalry and have get more help on this particular topic. So whether it's a support related thing, whether it's a finance related thing, whether it's a development related thing, it's always good, and we always make it a point to talk through some of those big decisions. And in my case, talking through it sometimes helps me solve it.
Yeah.
And whereas thinking through it, your mind goes a million different directions. But if you're actually verbalizing it, putting it on paper, on a whiteboard, or whatever, that it slows you down a little bit. Don't have a chance to blow it up in your head as much as I tend to do sometimes.
Yeah, and I don't think shy away from it as well. As the more you stick your head in the sand, you know, on certain things, the harder and the bigger it becomes essentially. And
Yeah.
it's like something today Matt has got a task, because we've got this situation with the Section 3 with Amazon at the moment. We've got a lot of cash flow tied up, which isn't really going anywhere at the moment, but we're kind of cool with that. So one of Matt's tasks that he has been that's been on the list, once the appeal got sent in, all 356 pages of it, I know.
I took it over. I think it was like 502, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
We had people guess.
Well, go big or go home. That's that's definitely an American phrase. And so it's one of those things that you've just got to sit down. You've got to get all the information there. You've got to put everything out in front of you. And you know what's something that might not look so bad can either bring an opportunity, or it's not as bad as you think, or like I said, it brings an opportunity. It's very rare with any situation. I think if you sit down and face it, and especially in a partnership, if you can discuss it between two people, it's kind of rare that you won't come up with at least one solution. And and sometimes it can kind of work out a bit better as well.
Yeah, or you come up with a great idea, but it's like, all right, let's look at our timeline of what we've got going on here, and like, let's pause on that for 60 days.
Yeah.
You know what? Great idea. Let's come back to it. Make sure you make a note of it. Come back in the staff meeting 2 months from now and discuss it. So we always want to act on everything instantly when we have these great ideas in our businesses, but you really do have to rationalize it. Again, going back to corporate life, you really do have to rationalize it from a financial, operational impact, staffing impact. You really do need to go through all of those, all of those resources to understand if this idea makes sense now. Might make sense later. Maybe it won't ever make sense. But the business is going to be completely different in 60 days. You'll have a different set of challenges. So it might not ever make sense, or it might be the most brilliant idea we've ever had. But prioritizing it amongst everything that needs to get done, because like I said, can't stick your head in the sand. Got to get the other stuff done, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You sort of touched on it earlier, but one of the questions that I wanted to ask is husband and wife, business partners. Obviously, I know it's our business, but obviously it's both of your business essentially. But so who breaks the deadlock? Is there anyone that if you both are like, I'm on this side and I'm on this side, and you're button heads, who do you go to? Is there anyone that you go to break the deadlock, or do you just kind of pin it and say, look, we can't agree on this, let's move on, we're going to have to agree to disagree? How does that work?
Yeah, depending on the topic, we do have other parties involved in the business. So whether it's staff members, whether it's advisors, that type of thing, sometimes they can help us with those types of decisions. We tend to silo things. So Al is sort of development accounts. That's his thing. So if I'm working on something accounts related, I will ultimately defer to him on it.
Yeah.
He leaves support, marketing, all the behind the scenes malarkey that we class as operations. He kind of leaves that to me. So typically that person will win out, shall we say, if we get into a discussion about a topic. Sometimes it's a matter of in my way, I'm like, okay, I'm going to plead my case. Yeah. So I'll put together my list of, okay, all right, here's why we should do this particular development feature, right? Bang. Okay, I didn't sell you. All right, I'll go back to my office now. Okay. So yeah, it's kind of, somebody's got to own different parts of the business. And then, we'll come up with some topics sometimes where it's like, oh yeah, I suppose one of us should be in charge of that. Okay, why don't you take that one? Why don't you take that one? It's like, who's our GDPR guru? Who's going to be this? Who's going to be that? Things like that you don't hire somebody for, but somebody's got to keep an eye on it. So yeah, I think ultimately whoever owns that silo will win the argument.
Fair enough.
Or
Fair
the
enough.
dog. The dog can chime in sometimes too.
Is the dog? Does he have a preference? Does he take sides, or is it, do you both
Well,
stand at the opposite ends of the room, and whoever the dog comes to wins?
he's a mama's boy for sure. He
There we
sleeps
go.
under here most of the time. So, but Dad's office is cooler because Dad's office is closer to the front door where he can bark at stuff. So yeah.
Amazing, amazing. So when you first came onto the business, Alison, it was because you guys, I mean, you've slogged it out. You slogged it out, as Al talked about, in terms of you maximized yourselves as much as possible before bringing other team members in, right? You wanted to make sure that you were doing everything yourself and you were sufficient before you bring that out. And I know that that's still a work in progress because Al is very much still in a position where he wants to remove himself from the business as not as much as possible, but obviously to be able to focus on new challenges, different things, or whatever. So with those type of decisions, and I know you have different partners and things like that as well, again, is that something that is collaborative? Do you discuss hires together? Do you who gets kind of their work, or who gets the task done first, in outsourced first, essentially, because obviously Al's very much still coding and doing that. That's got to be one of the hardest jobs to replace, especially for Al, I'd imagine.
Yeah, for sure. So back to the silos, we really do try to manage it like a department. So we've reached this limit. I remember it was about a year ago, where I was just so frustrated at myself one day, and I'm like, we can't keep up with the support. There's why is it that we on the support side we can't get anything else done? And I was like, look at the number of customers. Like, we've got more customers. It's going to take more time. I'm like, oh yeah. So it's continuing to look at growth and where we need to prioritize. That will typically be number one as far as hiring. So development, yes, has been a massive priority. So Al's got a development team now, but to your point, he's overseeing it. He's also part of the team because some of the work he does himself. So yeah, ideal world, we get that bit out, so he doesn't have to actually do development. He can still oversee things, absolutely, and be the visionary, because that's what he's been from the start for the product. And in my case, there's only so many hours in the day. So, okay, Alison, you want to do marketing? Great. You need to do this, this, and this. I'm like, where am I going to come up with those extra 12 hours in the day? So that's when it made sense to start farming things out. Let's go find the help to help us get this thing forward. So it's really going back to the first staff meeting we ever had and our list of to-dos. Our list of to-dos has just gotten bigger. And that's where it's all right. It's time now to bring somebody in to do this. And I am, ask any of my bosses, I hate letting go of stuff.
Yeah.
But as one of my bosses told me, like, Alison, you got to rise above it. There's plenty of people that can do this for you. Rise above it. We don't need you to be doing the little tasks. We need you to be more strategic. And that's what you have to realize as a business owner is you will never exclude yourself from doing it, right? I mean, I still answer support tickets. I still do social media posts, things like that. So I will never totally walk away from it. I need to at least be able to do it, but it doesn't need to be my full-time job. Like the business won't grow if you can't be more of the visionary that you need to grow the business. So if there's no vision, you're just going to stay in a tunnel and keep going forward. I think Al mentioned it on the podcast before, of arbitrage businesses are cash businesses, right?
Yeah.
And if that is all you're doing is just running on the hamster wheel to keep the cash going, that's fine. And if that's your objective, that's fine. But if you want to grow it beyond that, what is that vision and what's it going to take to get there? Do you need to hire somebody to go out and drive the van and do the RA for you? So your time can be used more strategically. Do you need to use a prep center and get that aspect out of your life? Get your kitchen back, shall we say, so your family doesn't kick you out of the house. So always be always be looking at, are you doing the right things that you need to be doing? Are you using your time to the best advantage of the business? Because it's really easy to just do the easy stuff, isn't it? Oh, I know I can do this. I'm just going to sit down and do this task.
Oh, absolutely. I
But it
always
really
say,
doesn't, not advancing the business. It's just killing time, really.
yeah, I think if this doesn't hit you at least once a day, if there's not
Yeah,
a
for sure.
moment once a day where you feel slightly uncomfortable about what you're doing, not in like an illegal way or anything like that, like, just make that absolutely clear. But if you get that, and again, it takes time, it takes experience. I used to confuse this feeling before of like fear, of scared, of whatever. But now I know when I get that kind of uncomfortable feeling in my stomach, it used to stop me before, but now it's an indicator. Now I know that I'm on the right path. Whereas if I felt slightly awkward, if I felt, I don't know if I really want to do this, it's because I didn't want to do it because I was scared. Whereas now I've recognized that feeling as that feeling generally, or something good generally precedes that, because I've pushed myself out of the comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're fortunate that in the size business that we have, we can take advantage of those, because back to corporate life, we've all had those ideas in corporate life, and it's like, yeah, I can't do that because I got to get approval from this person, that person, and that person. And we are so in that space that we can do that. We can try those things, and you know what? It might fail. That's fine. Learn from it. Move on. Right.
Absolutely.
That's part of entrepreneurship. It's just learning from it, moving on, making it bigger and better.
Do you ever think or worry that you will become a victim of your own success through your business that will have an impact on your marriage? So what I mean by this is, like you said, you guys have worked your socks off, hard graft, yourself and Al, building the business, tremendous growth, great success within the business. Now you are at a period of in your business where you're still continuing to grow, but you've brought people in to handle things, and it allows you to maybe step back and observe things. And as time goes on, presumably more people will come into the business. Do you ever worry that at some point, like in particular, probably someone like Al who thrives on coding, being busy, do you ever worry that he's become so successful, you become so successful that you are kind of left not doing everything or anything because anyone else is doing it for you, and then all of a sudden we're twiddling our thumbs and be like, we've been so busy for so long,
We
it's
were
just
both
you and
so
me now.
excited. Oh my gosh, we're so excited for the day when it's like we have nothing to do. We
Okay,
kind of
yeah, good.
we kind of have loose bets about what's going to be the first day that you and I don't have to do something with regards to Selleramp.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was a conversation that you had on
Yeah,
a
it
regular
is.
basis.
Yeah, we kind of joke about it, and the funny thing is about Al, we joke with him when it comes to like going on holiday. He wants to go away on holiday and have the beach and the pool and all this stuff, but he gets bored. Like he'll sit at the pool for like an hour and a half. He'll be like, "Okay, I'm done with that." So it's like, so we've kind of made our holidays now a little bit of chill time, but then also let's go explore. That's our thing. Is let's go walk around and see stuff and that type of thing. So we've kind of adjusted. So we do relax in our own way when we have a chance to do that. But yeah, there's always the day of there's always thinking about that day of what are we gonna do when if the internet shut down tomorrow, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
But we both have things on our list that we do want to focus on, more longer, sort of long-term things that are sort of personal or pet projects of ours that we would like to see happen in the future. So we just kind of keep those warm should the opportunity come along. But I don't know if it's going to come anytime soon.
No. And I think that's the thing. It's like maintaining those outside interests, making sure that not all of your eggs are in one business marriage basket, making sure that you socialize. Again, I think it really does come back to compartmentalizing your life, really, having, I always say, different cups for different people, and having people tick different boxes in different ways for me. I've always been that one person that sort of says, I'd never kind of got on board with the guru advice of, dump all your friends and only socialize with successful people and do this and do that. I've never got on board with that. And I've always kept my same friends because they fulfill me in such a different way that other people can't, that type of thing. So it is, and that's the same in marriage as well.
Yeah, and one thing that's been a good outlet for me is I did some volunteering here in Austin, where we are, at the visitor center here. And I'd done this in a previous life many years ago when we lived in a different city. And it was always so enjoyable for me to go in and just talk to people about our city, people who'd never been there before, and show them things they can do. And it's not software, it's not arbitrage, it's got nothing to do with anything that I do on a daily basis. And it was so relaxing to me to go in. Like, people are like, how can you stay so chipper? And so I'm like, this is great. I get to talk to people. I'm not talking to computers. But unfortunately, I had to put that on the back burner because things got so busy that it was beginning to eat into time. But that is one thing that I want to go back to because I get the satisfaction out of it. And I feel like I walk away from there being a better person. I've helped people. It gave me a different sense of satisfaction that I can't get from my daily activities here in front of the computer.
Yeah.
So give yourself that grace, give yourself that opportunity to expand your knowledge, your skill set outside of your business. Don't just stay 100% focused on business. You got to stay sane. You got to do things that make you feel fulfilled in other aspects of life.
Exactly. All work and no play makes anybody dull. So, make sure you mix it up, guys, regardless of whether that's in your marriage, whether it's in you personally as an entrepreneur. Make sure you mix it up. Doing one or all of the same thing all of the time, it just becomes too much of the dull kind of repetitiveness of just
you got to give yourself a break for sure.
Definitely highly recommend doing those walks or popping out to the shop, blaring out your music that no one else wants to listen to that we were talking about earlier, for sure. So and before we know it, we've hit the hour mark. Like I always say, on Beyond the Buy Box, it's like a time vortex on here. You can be chatting away, and then for all you know, it like an hour later, here we are. So just before we go, Alison, because I know that you have got so much to do, busiest travel day of the year. I don't want to keep rubbing it in, but
I got out of the dog walk this morning, so thanks for that.
Sorry.
No, you're good. That's good.
Oh no, that's good. Well, yeah, Al, he enjoys this.
Need a break every so often.
He can do that. So just kind of, I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure having yourself and Al. And by the way, if anyone wants to listen to Al's podcast, that was from a few weeks ago. We'll make sure we link that in there as well, which was, about the inception and creation of Selleramp and, more on the software side of things. Then I'll make sure I link that down below. But just before I go, obviously you guys came over to the UK. You talked about doing more kind of stuff. So, what's in the immediate future for you and Al from business point of view, but also personal point of view as well?
Well, on the business side of things, it's continuous development. It's interesting for me. I had some project management experience that allowed me to see development processes and things, but it's really fascinating to me to see what it takes to keep the product going on a daily basis. And it's funny because all of you that are veteran Selleramp people will recall that first pod. In fact, you want to see something cute. We just passed our 4-year anniversary. Go back and watch our first YouTube video, which was our launch video. It's so cute. And the product is so different. But to get it to this stage, it's fun to release all the new sexy features and things like that. But there's so much more that goes in behind it. Mm-hmm. So it's continuing to hone up sort of the back end, front end, the balance between the two, and releasing new features. We're constantly tinkering with that mix to figure out how we keep the customers engaged, because we want to keep adding new things, but also make sure that the product continues to stand up. You know,
Yeah.
there's that obligation. So it's always a battle with that. Constantly trying to make the process easier for the customer as well. And that's where my operational side comes in, is the whole transaction and the usage of the tool and that type of thing, like making sure that's a smooth experience, UI, UX experience. Communicating more. We actually got an initiative going right now where we're going to be launching more communications out, because we want to be more than just a software tool. And I feel like we are. I feel like we built a community, but you know, we're reaching into new grounds. There's always new sellers coming on board. We want to present ourselves as that friendly face who's going to be here to help you through this journey. So we're working on some communications projects to help with that. It's really looking forward to an exciting 2024 for sure. We've got some big plans in store, both from a product, from a customer perspective, from a marketing perspective. So never a dull moment. My to-do list is pretty long. But on the personal front, yeah, we're going to continue to go back and forth to the UK a few times a year and continue to arrange some meetups and try to be engaged in things like Seller Festival. Continue to as well promoting over here in the US, obviously doing some similar events over here. It's funny in the US because you know you can't just take an afternoon and take a train to Nottingham, can you? So it has to be a little more pointed in our efforts over here as far as where we go and when we're there. But continue to get out and put faces to Selleramp. You know, aside from the ones that people see on social media. So we are very much looking forward to that. Got a couple vacations in the works here that will be, you know, might involve some palm trees and some water, and Al getting bored after an hour and a half of sitting by the pool, but that's okay.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for, Al.
Exactly. And then, yeah, just spending time with some family here at Thanksgiving time, spending time with my family here, and Christmas time, spending a little time with Al's family in the UK. So, yeah, we are very much looking forward to what the new year has in store, all sorts of adventures. And like I said, never a dull moment. So.
Yeah, well, I think so, definitely. It's like Thanksgiving, and like I said, I've got personal connections. My son was born on Thanksgiving. I think Thanksgiving definitely is the start, or what is Black Friday weekend, obviously now as well.
Yeah.
We haven't even mentioned that. We haven't even mentioned Black Friday
Happy
weekend.
Black Friday, everybody.
Yeah, happy Black Friday. I hope everybody's sales really massively start to kick off at this point. This is the week when Q4 really starts. And I think what's interesting is this week, it's where Q4 really starts. It's connected to Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and everything like that. But it's also the start of the countdown to the end of the year. And that's when I think sometimes mindset starts to shift a little bit, where you start thinking about, where you start evaluating the year that's been, thinking about the year that's coming, you know, doing all those lovely things over Christmas. Been talking to a few people at the moment, and you know, we shut down for 2-3 weeks over Christmas, pretty much, in terms of, you know, content we produce and, you know, social and communities and things like that, because I'm a big believer in, you know, especially when you're an entrepreneur, you don't get much downtime, but the whole world pretty much is off at Christmas. So it's a time, I think, where there's an understanding essentially that you're not that contactable as you are normally. So it's best to take advantage of it as much as possible.
Things get quiet for sure, and yeah, take advantage of that time, definitely. And also, it's a great time when you're not in your daily grind to sort of reflect and think about next year. You know, what is that? Carve out an afternoon where you can sit at the coffee shop or whatnot and really take your day-to-day out of it and just look at your bigger goals and then help try to figure out how you're going to execute those in the next year.
Yeah. Brilliant advice. Thank you, Alison. Really appreciate it. Well, thank you for spending your early morning with us.
Well, you're welcome. I just got a text from American Airlines saying our first flight's been delayed today. So here we go. Woohoo!
Oh dear. Well, I didn't say that. I don't feel that's down to me. I didn't say that. Oh God, like a big delay?
No, like 40 minutes. So hopefully we'll still make our connection. So yeah.
Fingers crossed. Well,
The
like I
joys of
said,
holiday
I
travel.
am. Yeah, I'm going to let you go because, like I said, I really do appreciate you spending time with us today on such
Absolutely my pleasure. I
busy
appreciate
day for you.
everything that you do on the pod. I appreciate the Hive. Thank you to everybody who attended. It's awesome to share some insights with you.
Yeah, and we look forward to, possibly working together next year for some meetups and things like that, which
Yeah, for sure.
are so needed in this community, in this space. And we've just really got back into them after COVID and meeting up again with people again. So we're definitely going to be doing more of that in 2024. For anyone that wants to get in contact with Alison, make sure you join the Selleramp Facebook page, Instagram, presumably all the socials, that type of thing.
Twitter, TikTok, we're on all of them. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those things. Everyone kind of knows where you are, so we don't feel like I need to do in this. But we'll make sure website and everything all goes down below and everything like that.
If you log an email into support, just tell them you want to tell them to send it to me.
Yeah, there you go. For the attention of Alison, but maybe not this weekend.
Yep.
Well, I'm wishing you safe travels this weekend, and make sure you really enjoy the downtime. Make sure Al enjoys the downtime with the family, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Enjoy your Black Friday week, everybody, and may the sales be fruitful.
I'm sure they will. They will really start to ramp up now. Well, thank you, Alison. Really, really appreciate it. Guys, I'll be back. I might be back at a slightly different time next week. I'll keep you all posted because I have a different guest next week who is going to be joining me. But yes, I will keep you all posted when that's going to be because I don't think this person can do a Tuesday. So I will get that confirmed and I will obviously post it in the group. But thanks for joining, everyone. And I'll see you next week. Take care, everyone. Bye.